Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we are diving deep into something, well, incredibly practical. A simple daily practice that our sources tell us can have truly profound effects, especially as we get older.
That's right. We've pulled together insights from, various health and well-being resources. We're really focusing on physical activity guidelines and the specific benefits of gentle, consistent movement.
Yeah, and this material seems particularly relevant for older adults, doesn't it? Addressing those common challenges like stiffness and maybe reduced mobility.
Absolutely. And our mission today is pretty clear. Let's unpack exactly what these sources reveal. Why committing just 10 minutes to specific, gentle movements each morning could fundamentally change how you feel.
And how you function, right? And maybe even how you maintain your independence as the years go by.
Exactly. The sources really hammer home a critical point right at the start. Get this. Over 40% of Americans aged 65 and older report difficulty with basic everyday mobility tasks.
Wow, 40%.
Yeah, things most of us don't even think twice about, like walking comfortably, climbing a few steps, or, simply standing up from a chair without a big effort.
That number is startling.
Yeah.
And it really bumps up against this widespread belief, almost an acceptance, that getting stiff is just part of getting old. You hear that all the time.
Right. That aging inevitably means declining physical ease. But our sources push back. They push back hard against that fatalism.
So they pose this question, which I guess is central to our deep dive today. What if just 10 minutes, first thing in the morning, could actively counteract that stiffness and keep you moving more freely?
It's a powerful question, and the research really seems to support it, suggesting this isn't just, wishful thinking.
Okay, let's definitely explore that. But before we get into the why of the 10 minutes today, it's kind of fascinating how the sources touch on a historical perspective. Advice on physical activity for older adults in the U.S. Well, it hasn't always been what it is now, has it? There's been a pretty significant shift in thinking.
Yeah, it's quite a change. What we find in the historical context is that, especially earlier in the 20th century, the conventional wisdom for older adults was often surprisingly restrictive, like really restrictive.
How so?
The focus was heavily on rest. Physical activity wasn't really seen as something beneficial across the board. It was more for, athletes or maybe specific rehabilitation.
So for the average older person.
For the general older population, advice often leaned towards avoiding strenuous activity. And sometimes that got interpreted as avoiding much movement at all.
So essentially, take it easy, don't push yourself, which kind of intuitively feels like it would lead exactly to the stiffness we're trying to avoid now.
Precisely. It wasn't until later in the century, maybe the 80s and 90s, particularly driven by medical science advancements and these large-scale studies, that the understanding dramatically changed.
Okay.
Research began compellingly demonstrating the widespread health benefits of even moderate activity for people of all ages.
So it wasn't just about athletic performance anymore. It was about, like, foundational health for everyone.
Exactly. Organizations like the CDC and others shifted their focus. They moved from a purely performance-oriented view to a public health one.
Makes sense.
They started emphasizing that physical activity is essential for preventing chronic disease, boosting overall well-being, and, crucially, maintaining functional independence throughout life.
That scientific backing really paved the way for the kinds of guidelines we see today, right? The ones that actively encourage movement.
Yeah, they highlight its immense value for older Americans now.
That reframing makes so much sense. Movement as a necessity for life, not just for sports. Okay, so this leads us directly to the core question. Why does a 10-minute morning mobility routine specifically address the physical changes that can make us feel, well, creaky as we age?
Well, the sources detail the natural processes our bodies go through. It's quite interesting, actually. Over decades, our joints, which are incredibly complex machines, they can lose some of that crucial lubricating fluid.
Synovial fluid.
That's the one. And the cartilage that cushions bone-on-bone movement can also start to thin out a bit.
So things literally just don't glide as smoothly anymore.
Right. Exactly. And beyond the joints themselves, our muscles can lose some elasticity, becoming less pliable. And connective tissues, like tendons and ligaments, if they're not moved regularly through their full range, they can actually shorten.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And all of this contributes significantly to that stiffness and discomfort many people feel, particularly first thing in the morning, that feeling the sources aptly describe as creaky.
Okay, that makes sense biologically. But how does just 10 minutes of gentle movement in the morning actually counter all of that? Seems like a small amount of time for such big processes.
This is where the simplicity is really powerful. The sources explain that these gentle movements serve as a targeted warm-up. Slow, controlled actions increase blood flow,
Okay.
which nourishes your muscles and helps them become more responsive. And crucially, the movement stimulates the production and circulation of that synovial fluid, the natural lubricant within the joints.
The oiling the rusty hinge idea we talked about.
Exactly. That's a great analogy for it. It helps reduce friction and resistance, making movements smoother right off the bat.
So you're not fighting against that initial stiffness when you start your day. Makes things like reaching for a coffee mug or bending to tie your shoes feel less like a struggle.
Precisely. Less of a struggle. And I imagine that directly impacts flexibility and range of motion, too.
Absolutely. By moving your joints and muscles through their full, comfortable range daily, you help prevent those tissues from shortening and becoming tight.
You're not aiming for, like, gymnastic flexibility here.
No, no, not at all. It's about maintaining the ability to move freely for everyday activities, reaching behind you, stepping over something, turning your head easily without that catching feeling.
Gotcha. And the sources also mention pain reduction as a major benefit. How does mobility tie into that?
Well, for many people, chronic aches, back pain, knee pain, shoulder discomfort, are often made worse by stiffness, maybe poor posture, and imbalances that develop when certain muscles tighten up and weaken. Improving flexibility and gently strengthening the supporting muscles through these mobility exercises can actually alleviate pressure on stressed joints. So it's not just temporary relief.
No, you're potentially addressing some of the underlying tension and alignment issues that contribute to that chronic discomfort, which hopefully leads to more pain-free movement throughout the day.
Less physical discomfort, more freedom of movement. That sounds good. But the sources emphasize it's not just about the body. There's a significant mental and emotional uplift from this routine, too.
This is incredibly important, yeah. Starting your day with a conscious, positive act like mindful movement, well, it just sets a completely different tone. It's an immediate act of self-care.
And there's a biological boost there, too, isn't there? Something about natural mood elevators.
Exactly. Even gentle physical activity triggers the release of endorphins. These are your body's natural mood boosters, and they help reduce stress hormones. The sources note that for older adults who might face things like social isolation or just generally reduced activity levels, this simple routine can provide a really noticeable lift. It can help combat feelings of anxiety and potentially lower the risk of depression.
So it sounds like a gentle, kind of built-in mood enhancer.
It is, and it's a wake-up call for your brain as well. Movement increases blood flow not just to your muscles, but importantly to your brain.
Okay.
More oxygen and nutrients flowing upstairs can sharpen your focus, maybe improve memory recall, and support better problem solving. It's like giving your cognitive function a gentle nudge to start the day.
So you're not just getting your body ready, you're getting your mind ready, too. That's interesting.
Absolutely. And, on a psychological level, the simple act of establishing and completing a positive routine, even a short one like this, right at the start of your day, it fosters a powerful sense of accomplishment.
You've already achieved something before you've even had breakfast.
Exactly that feeling. I set out to do this and I did it. It builds confidence and momentum. It reinforces your belief in your ability to care for yourself and tackle the day.
That sense of self-efficacy, that's really crucial for resilience, isn't it? And maintaining a positive outlook.
Totally.
Okay, so we've covered the physical ease, the mental clarity, the emotional boost. But for our audience, especially those over 55, perhaps the most vital benefit highlighted in the sources is maintaining independence and preventing falls.
This is such a critical point. The sources stress it repeatedly. Mobility issues aren't just uncomfortable, they are a primary driver of losing independence.
Which can then lead to isolation, even depression.
Sadly, yes. The ability to live life on your own terms, to stay in your home, to go where you want when you want. It's directly tied to your ability to move confidently and safely.
And losing that ability must feel like losing a piece of your freedom.
It really does. And mobility exercises directly target the muscles and systems essential for balance and stability. Even simple movements that challenge your balance slightly help improve proprioception.
Proprioception. That's your body's awareness of where it is in space, right? Without having to constantly look down.
Precisely. Like knowing automatically where your foot is going, even on uneven ground.
Okay.
That heightened body awareness allows for quicker, more effective reactions if you stumble or encounter an unexpected obstacle, like an unseen curb or a rug that slips.
those rapid corrective movements are key to preventing a fall, I guess.
Absolutely key. And falls are a major, major concern for older adults.
Yeah, the stats are pretty sobering.
They are. The CDC data cited in the sources shows falls are a leading cause of injury in this demographic. So, by improving balance, core strength, and that reactive agility, a consistent morning mobility routine acts as a powerful preventative measure.
Gives you the physical capacity and the confidence to navigate your environment more safely.
Right. Which also helps reduce the fear of falling, a fear that can paradoxically lead people to limit their activity and actually become more vulnerable.
That's a vicious cycle. So it's not just the physical act of preventing a fall, but the confidence that lets you keep participating fully in life.
Exactly. And these routines directly enhance your functional strength and range of motion for what we call activities of daily living, or ADLs.
Okay, ADLs. Like,
Think about getting out of bed in the morning, reaching into a cupboard, getting dressed, stepping into a shower, or even just getting into and out of a car.
the small things you do every single day that you totally take for granted until they become difficult or painful.
Right. When stiffness or limited range of motion makes those tasks a struggle, it really impacts your autonomy. By gently moving your joints and activating the necessary muscles daily, you maintain the physical capacity to perform these ADLs with greater ease, less pain, and increased confidence.
Which directly contributes to preserving your autonomy and freedom.
That's the goal.
So a 10-minute investment could genuinely help you keep doing the things you need and want to do for yourself. That's a pretty remarkable return, isn't it?
It really is. Now, despite these clear benefits, the sources do acknowledge and address some common misconceptions, or maybe just barriers that stop people from starting.
Right, I can imagine one is just thinking, isn't it too late for me? I haven't exercised in years.
That's a big one. The idea that I'm too old, exercise won't make a difference now. But the material is very, very clear. This is a myth. Research consistently demonstrates that it is never too late to begin.
Really? Even in your 70s or 80s?
Absolutely. Significant improvements in strength, balance, flexibility, and overall function are observed in individuals who start physical activity routines well into their 70s, 80s, and even beyond. The body's capacity for positive adaptation doesn't just switch off with age.
Okay, so the too late excuse is officially out. What about people with existing health issues? Like maybe someone thinks, my joints hurt already, exercise will just make my arthritis worse.
That's another very common and totally understandable concern. And while it's absolutely essential, I have to stress this, to consult your doctor or physical therapist, especially with chronic conditions.
Yeah.
The sources emphasize that gentle, modified, low-impact mobility exercises are often therapeutic for conditions like arthritis.
Therapeutic. So helpful.
Yes. Done correctly, they can actually improve joint function, reduce stiffness, and decrease pain rather than making it worse. The key is gentle, controlled movement, not pushing into pain or doing strenuous activity.
So movement can be part of the management plan, not something to avoid entirely.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And do you need a gym membership or expensive equipment for this?
Another common myth the sources bust. The idea that you need a fancy gym or special equipment for this kind of work is simply not true.
Good.
This 10-minute morning routine relies mainly on your own body weight. It can be done in your living room, bedroom, even a small hallway. Minimal space, zero equipment required. Effective mobility is about controlled movement, not fancy gear.
Okay, so we've debunked some common barriers. Let's make this practical. How do people actually do it? The sources offer some key advice on crafting the routine itself.
They do. The guiding principles are really gentle, consistent, and adaptable. The aim isn't to perform intense stretches or a vigorous workout. It's just a gentle wake-up call for your body.
And the most important rule.
Listen to your body intently. If you feel any sharp or stabbing pain, stop that particular movement immediately. Movement should be smooth and controlled, and the sources suggest focusing on steady breathing throughout.
And it sounds like this require a whole production. You don't need to be fully dressed or have your coffee first or anything.
Exactly. That's the beauty of its adaptability. You can do it right in your pajamas, maybe before you've even had that first cup of coffee, or perhaps right after you get out of bed.
And consistency trumps intensity.
Every single time. If some mornings you only have 5 minutes, that's still worthwhile. Do what you can. And many of the movements can be done while seated or using a sturdy chair for support if balance is a concern.
So the goal is just to move gently and consistently, whatever that looks like on any given day.
Precisely. Focus on mobility, improving range of motion, and easing stiffness. Think of it as preparation for the day, not a demanding workout session.
The sources include some brief anecdotes, which I always find helpful. Examples of real people who saw results, like Martha.
Yes, Martha, a 72-year-old retired teacher, she shared her experience with significant morning stiffness. It made simple things like reaching for dishes in upper cabinets really difficult and painful for her.
Okay.
After just a few weeks of doing gentle shoulder and upper body movements first thing in the morning, she found her stiffness dramatically reduced. She could reach overhead comfortably again. Small change, big impact on her daily life.
That's great. And there was Frank, too.
Frank, yeah, he's 68, a very active grandfather, but he was getting concerned about his balance, especially wanting to play safely with his grandkids.
Sure.
By focusing on gentle lower body movements, things like hip marches, ankle circles, maybe some knee raises, he noticed not only improved flexibility in his legs, but felt much more stable and confident on his feet.
So he felt safer playing with the kids.
Exactly. He found he could navigate uneven surfaces better, felt more secure chasing after his grandchildren at the park. These are real-world examples of how these simple movements translate directly to an enhanced quality of life.
It's powerful to see those principles applied. And the sources really emphasize that this isn't just based on individual stories. It's supported by major health organizations and experts in the field.
Absolutely. Leading U.S. health authorities like the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC, and the American Physical Therapy Association, the APTA, they strongly advocate for physical activity in older adults.
Right.
And while their broader guidelines include recommendations for cardio and strength training too, they specifically recommend flexibility and balance exercises on most days of the week.
Which is precisely what a consistent 10-minute morning routine delivers.
Exactly. And experts cited in the material, like Dr. Alice Roberts, she's a gerontologist and physical therapist, she reinforces this. She highlights that starting with small, achievable movements like a 10-minute morning routine is a crucial entry point for many older adults.
A crucial entry point. I like that.
Yeah, she notes it helps reduce pain, build confidence, and sets a positive tone that often encourages people to be more active later in the day, too. So these professional recommendations really underline the validity and importance of incorporating this kind of gentle, consistent movement.
Wow. Okay. We've covered so much ground from the biological mechanisms to the mental benefits, maintaining independence, busting those myths, and getting practical. Let's try to quickly recap the key takeaways from our deep dive into this material.
Sure. So we learned how a 10-minute morning routine acts as a gentle warm-up. It lubricates joints, improves flexibility, and actively reduces that creaky stiffness and potentially related chronic pain.
And we saw its significant impact beyond just the physical body, boosting mood, sharpening mental focus, and fostering that powerful sense of confidence and accomplishment right at the start of the day.
Critically, we detailed how this routine directly enhances balance, strengthens the body for those everyday tasks, the ADLs, and is a vital tool for maintaining independence and significantly reducing the risk of falls, which means more confident participation in life.
So, given everything we've unpacked, what's the call to action? How can you, listening right now, actually put this knowledge into practice?
Well, I think the most effective step is simply to try it. Give it a shot. Starting tomorrow morning, just carve out 10 minutes for some gentle movement. You don't need a complex plan.
Right.
The sources suggest starting really simple, gentle neck rolls, shoulder circles, easy back stretches, maybe like a cat-cow if you know that one hip marches, which you can do seated, and some ankle rotations.
And focus on gentle, controlled movements. Use a chair for support if you need it. Remember, doing something gently is far better than doing nothing, because you're waiting for the perfect time or the perfect routine.
Absolutely. Listen to your body, move within a comfortable range, breathe steadily. Consistency is the name of the game, even if some mornings are shorter than others.
Think of these 10 minutes not as another chore, maybe, but as a gift you give yourself. An investment in feeling better, moving more freely, and maintaining your ability to do the things you love.
Well said. Make it as non-negotiable as brushing your teeth, maybe.
Exactly. And if you'd like more ideas or some visual guidance, the sources point to some great US-based online resources people can check out.
Yes, definitely check out aarp.org. They have videos like their 10-minute balance and stretch workout that align perfectly with this idea. The National Institute on Aging, or NIA, at nia.ai.gov offers an excellent exercise and older adults toolkit with free resources.
Okay, NIA, got it.
And CDC.gov Physical Activity provides valuable information on physical activity guidelines for all ages, including tips relevant to building strength and balance. Lots of good stuff there.
Those sound like great places to get started, or maybe find some new movements to try if you get bored. And just to quickly address a couple of common questions the sources anticipate.
Right. First, and this is crucial, if you have existing health conditions, always consult with your doctor or a physical therapist before starting any new exercise routine. Please. They can help tailor it safely to your specific needs.
Good reminder. And second, does it have to be exactly 10 minutes? Is that magic?
No, not magic. 10 minutes is a solid, achievable guideline. But the sources emphasize that even 5 minutes of consistent, gentle movement is beneficial. The real goal is finding a routine that fits your life and that you can actually stick with. Every minute of mindful movement contributes.
To a more mobile, more comfortable you.
That's it.
This deep dive has really underscored how such a simple, accessible practice can yield such significant results in terms of comfort, confidence, and independence.
The evidence really is compelling. Those small steps you take daily build up to big changes over time.
So here's a final thought to leave you with, something maybe to consider as you think about incorporating this into your own morning.
Yeah.
What if this simple commitment to 10 minutes isn't just about making your body feel less stiff today? What if it's about actively claiming the vitality and independence you envision for yourself down the road? It's an investment not just in managing stiffness now, but maybe in ensuring you have the physical freedom and capacity to fully enjoy the years ahead, really on your own terms.
That's a powerful perspective to end on.
Indeed. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive. We hope it inspires you to explore how just 10 minutes each morning could potentially unlock more ease, more possibility, and more freedom in your day.